Hi, and welcome to the Becoming Trauma-Informed podcast, where we help you understand how your past painful experiences are affecting your current reality and how you can shift those so you can create your desired future. I'm Dr. Lee, and both myself and our team at the Institute for Trauma and Psychological Safety are excited to support you on your journey. We talk about all the things on this podcast. No topic gets left uncovered. So, extending a content warning to you before we get started. If you notice yourself getting activated while listening, invitation to take care of yourself and to pause, skip ahead a bit, or just check out another episode. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. I always say I'm so excited. I am so excited, though. Like, what a cool thing. Actually, I brag that I'm always so excited to introduce my guest. So I have the amazing Jenae Lyn with me here today. Everyone say hi to Jenae.
What's up, everybody?
So I'm going to have Jenae introduce herself. And this is a special episode because Jenae and I are going to have a really cool conversation about something that's happening at the Institute that Jenae's a part of. So before we get into that, Jenae, like, who are you? What do you love? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Jenae. I live in Omaha, Nebraska. During the day, I do HR stuff for an HR tech company. And in my spare time, I love to volunteer in prisons across the country, working with folks on second chances and what that means for themselves and in the next chapter of their lives. And then I like to take that work into some coaching that I get to do as well. That's what lights me up in my spare time. I like to hang out with my dogs and my partner, and we're figuring out life and having a lot of fun.
Yeah. You're a big walk person too, right?
Huge.
Mm-hmm. And you've recently started reading more, which is so cool.
You know, I'll tell you, and we won't get super into this today, but like reading a fiction book for fun was like the first book that I've read in 15 years, probably for fun. And I forgot how good it is to read like alliterations and analogies and things like they don't come in self-help books. And I love me a good self-help book, but like a fiction book where the words just like roll out of the pages. Oh, the best.
I feel that. Oh, yeah. And actually that ties in very intimately with what we're going to be talking about today, because so let me tell you a story. Picture it, Sicily, for my Golden Girls fans, little Sophia style. About 6-8 weeks ago, Jenae and I really started talking because Jenae is actually going to be the head instructor for trips next year. So she's taking over and teaching the content in our weekly modules, which is just so exciting. She's the head honcho. And I am absolutely just so stoked for her to do this because she's going to be really amazing at it. And every like October, November, we usually do what I like to call a transformation event or an experience for people to be able to get a taste of what we do in TRIPS, which is this 9-month certificate program. And it stands for Trauma Informed Psychologically Safe Certificate Program. So we were like, okay, what do we want to do? Well, Jenae, you had just been going through this other program where they were teaching you how to do live virtual events, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I actually remember being on a call with you that was not related to this. And you're like, yeah, I just like don't really know what I'm going to use this for. And I was like, yeah, well, like it'll sort itself out. This is before you were going to do anything with us. And then I was like, oh my gosh, wait, okay. So like, what if we use this for the transformation event, or sometimes we call them toe dips, like the toe dip into the TRIPS experience. And so we both got really excited about it. We start planning it out, teams involved, like we've got it all planned and it feels good. Like it felt good to have the plan. It felt good to have everything. And so Jenae's like, okay, I'm going to go to this event. It's for that program. I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions, get a good feel of, because there's a couple things that the way they've taught us to do it isn't the way that the Institute typically does things. So I'm going to figure out how we do those. I'm like, great, I'm going to start promoting it. We get it all done and we start promoting it. And I think we promoted it for like 5 days. And that 5th day, already on day 3, I was like, I don't know if this is right. And I didn't know you had been kind of feeling the same way.
Yeah.
And so that 5th day, we had a meeting. I think you asked to meet, right?
Yeah, I sent you a message
Yeah.
on the fourth day and I was like, hey, would love to chat. We could wait till our normal meeting on Monday, or we could chat on Slack, or also ideally, maybe we could get together tomorrow.
Yeah, and I don't typically take meetings on Friday. Like my Fridays are pretty protected. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so and y'all, I just want to say this for the entrepreneurs out there. One of the things that I absolutely love about like really prioritizing a trauma-informed, psychologically safe space, not just for our clients, but also for team, is that team will tell you when they think that you are messing shit up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And feel safe enough to be like, yo, like I think we might need to change this. And to Jenae's credit, that was how you started the call off. You were like, look, like if you want to do it this way still, that's cool. And
it would be silly for me not to say something.
yeah. And what you didn't know is we'd already had 2 other team members go like, hey, if you still want to do it this way, like, you know, you're the CEO, you're in charge. And I was like, okay, if I'm kind of feeling this, if 3 of our team members are feeling this is off. And like, my ego was so mad. My ego was like, absolutely not. We can't change this. You've been promoting this. Like you already changed your mind about the conference and moved it out a whole year. You already did this. You already did that. You can't keep changing your mind. You're not allowed to do that. And I was like, whoa, that was a lot of internal programming immediately popping up to be like, absolutely not. And so I took a second and I was like, okay, I see you, ego, trying to protect me and our reputation and all of those things. And also it's not right. And we can keep going down this path. And do you remember what happened? This is the conversation in my head. Do you remember what happened when we realized the conference wasn't right and then we ignored ourselves and then we kept promoting it for 2 more months and then we went, oh, we're going to move it anyway? What if instead we do that in 5 days instead of? And so I wanted to bring that in because so many people are afraid to change their mind and so many people are afraid to like have that conversation of like, oh, I've gone into action around this thing. I've put this plan into motion and now I'm seeing some obvious like warning signs, but I can't stop because I already told people I was going to do this. And so we then started talking about, okay, well, if it's not a 3-day, 12-hour day virtual event, what is it?
Yeah.
And I think you had the idea, right?
I don't even remember. It was funny because I feel like there was the pause of like, okay, now we're going to have this conversation and it may get really real right now. And then it was like everything just flowed out like it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Now I'm remembering. Yeah. Cause I was like, oh, okay. What if we keep here to help, but we make it 90 minutes a day for those 3 days? Because the 3 biggest obstacles are the helpers already have their work schedules. And we did this on a Monday to Wednesday. And, you know, we can shift our schedules really easily because of how our work is set up. And also most people can't. So let's take that into account. Number 2, these are the 3 days before Thanksgiving. And what do people need more? 90 minutes on how to not be completely overwhelmed a day, or 3 days of like a shit ton of content before they then go to their grandmother's house, right?
Right. Yeah.
Whomever, or travel to 4 states in 3 days or whatever it is, you know? And the other part was we were like, well, yeah, we can put 3 super helpful things here. And then what if we do the 3-day event in a little more abbreviated form?
Yeah.
After the first of the year, over January 5th through 7th. And it was like, oh, and then that's a Friday through Sunday. And they'll have, you know, 8 weeks to be able to sort out schedules and do those sorts of things. And let's actually walk people through trips.
Yeah.
The core pieces of being trauma informed and psychologically safe. So this is helpful for people if they're already trauma informed somewhere else and they want to get our flavor on it or our flavor of it. This is helpful if people have never been exposed to this and they want kind of just like the down and dirty, like, what do I need to be trauma aware, trauma sensitive? And then also for the people who are like, yeah, I actually think I want to do trips, but like, that's $5,500.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to commit to. And I think people don't talk about that.
Like I need to know a little bit more before I would make a decision like that. Yeah.
Like,
and not a little bit, but a good amount of a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you don't know us from Adam and you're in the Here to Help event and we're like, okay, go join this $5,000 program. Could we do that? Sure. Do I necessarily want to do that? No. I want the people who after that 3-day event are like, oh my gosh, I want more. Like, of course I'm going to sign up for this. That's who we really want in that space. Now, that's not to say if you're already like, oh no, I know I want this. Some of y'all have been asking us when this next round opens until like in April. So like, I'm not talking you out of joining. Please go ahead and join.
Totally. If you're waiting, if you know, come on in.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
welcoming you. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think this is key. And it directly ties to what we're going to be talking about in Here to Help. There's 3 core topics, which we'll talk about in a second. But there's been a big shift in the online coaching, education, programming space in the last year. And people need more before they sign up for things. And I think there's been a lot of entitlement in the space because people are like, well, this used to sell super easy, so it should keep selling super easy. And it's like, okay, but like, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
People are struggling to trust as quickly and as easily, and for good reason, because a lot of people have been really burned in education and programming. And so like, we really want people to feel safe when they join, or as safe as possible when they join. Can you still be nervous? Absolutely. Can you still be like, I don't know if this is really going to help? Absolutely. And we want you to have a way better idea of what you're going to be experiencing inside.
Yeah, I feel like you're nailing it. It's like, so us getting together for these 90 minutes during the week of Thanksgiving is like a taste test to, do you even want to hang out with us for 3 days?
Yeah.
And if you want to hang out with us for 3 days, we're also going to give you the opportunity to hang out with us for more of a year. But no matter what, you're going to walk away from either the 90-minute sessions during the week of Thanksgiving with enough stuff to be able to get yourself started, and then way more even during the 3-day conference. And then the invitation is come join us. And if not, you're going to get plenty of stuff too. And I think that's how we can serve people, but we have to do it from a place where we feel so good in doing it that way. And it really goes back to kind of what we're going to be talking about is like, we want our yes to feel like a yes and our no to feel like a no. And then we can serve from a place of like wholeness.
Do y'all see why she's leading this now? Like, I'm over here like, yeah, you just said that so beautifully. I just talked for 5 minutes and you said it in 30 seconds. Thank you. Seriously though. So let's talk about the 3 things that we're going to touch on November 20th through 22nd in Here to Help. So the first one is, day 1 is why we as humans feel so deeply called to help. And there is an interesting dynamic around this identity of being a helper, because it's both pedestalized and put up as the best type of person to be. And there's also this like low level people pleaser vibe to it, right? We all know those people that you're like, oh, I don't even want to tell them about this because they're going to be like, they're going to just start doing stuff. And I don't want them to just start doing stuff because they think they're being helpful and they're really not being helpful. So understanding the innate reason for why you want to help is key, because when you understand our drive as humans to support other people and to be supported, then it becomes a lot clearer how you want to do that. And I don't know about you. I don't think I've asked you this. I'm curious about your experience, but I was just raised in this like, well, if somebody needs help, you help them. I was referred to as selfish a good amount of my life, not by my parents, but just by humans in general. Like the underlying tone was Lee's selfish, because there were a lot of times that I was like, no, I'm not helping. like you made the mess, fix it. Right. And that was so not okay. So not okay. The other thing is I needed a lot of help. And you and I brought that up before we started recording, that example of my license plate when I got my first car said high maintenance. Like I was taught I'm really high maintenance. I need a lot of help. And so there's times I'm being told that I should help or pitch in or support, and I don't want to, but I guess I should, and I will, because you're telling me I should want to. So kind of feeling bad. And then there was also, I've received so much help. So now I feel like I can't receive anymore. and I need to help everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah, same. I grew up in a family where we gave a lot to the community. And my dad's favorite thing, and I love this about him, is that, he would show up for a neighbor whenever a neighbor was in need. And
Mhm.
I'm thankful for that. And we also did it sometimes from a place of if it meant that we were going without things or my dad wasn't showing up to things because someone else needed it, my needs necessarily weren't the same as
Mm.
maybe some others. And that's okay, and that's completely human, but that was also what I was taught, is there was kind of this performative element of it as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a
You
gold star student. If I can perform and if helping is the way I can do it, I get to feel good through the whole process, like, I will pour out.
sure. And then you feel wrong or, you feel bad or you feel shame when you're like, oh, like, yeah, I want to be the gold star student. And also, I'm tired. I don't want
Oh,
to do that today. One of the things that I felt a lot of shame around was helping people with money. Like my whole thing has always been case in point. Our son's on a travel baseball team. And when he joined, they were like, hey, the fees on average per year are about $750. And we do this 3-day tournament where if you volunteer for all 3 days, we'll take $400 off of the cost or $300 off the cost. I was like, cool, not doing that. Like, I would rather give you my money because then I can use those 3 days to rest or do whatever I need to. And then I can go make a ton more money and then donate more money other places that feels good and aligned for me. And the ability to even say that, like, that was so hard to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be volunteering for that
mhm.
because I know my own capacity. I know myself and being outside at a rainy tournament for 3 days in March in Ohio, like I am going to be so mad at myself if I say yes to this. And that kind of takes us into the second part that we're day two that we're going to be talking about, which is like how to know if you should offer help to someone, including yourself in any situation. And I think that, based on the example you just shared, that wasn't a question you asked yourself. It
Right,
wasn't, should I offer help? It was, well, somebody needs help, so I help.
right. And sometimes I didn't even know if they needed help, I just assumed it. Like,
Well, can you talk more about that?
yeah, like, I haven't always taken the time to ask, like, "What is it that you're wanting here?" I would just jump into me trying to fix something instead of sometimes someone just wanting a place, like, people don't naturally, unless maybe you're in our spaces for a while, like, say things like, "I just need a space to, like, vent for a minute, and I would just love for you to listen and not try to action it." It's so rare.
I do love that about our space. That happened this morning. Somebody on team was like, "Hey, can I just talk to you for a second about this? And this is exactly what I need around it." And I was like, actually, no, they didn't start off with this is exactly what I need around it. They asked for consent first. I said yes, went through it. And then at the end, they were like, "Oh, I think I'm just venting." And so I was like, okay, did that vent feel sufficient? Or would you also like, would you also like comfort or do you want me to like hop in the mad seat with you and get mad with you? Cause I can totally do that.
Yeah,
And so then it was just a chance to, they were able to say, yeah, this is what I need. And then I was able to feel really good about providing that because I only offered what I was willing to do.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
say, hey, do you want to hop on Zoom for an hour and talk about it? Because I that wouldn't have been beneficial for me.
right, right. So we're talking about what to do or when to know, like how, when to know when you should offer. I'll tell you one of the things I knew very quickly without ever learning any of this was when not to, when I was starting to feel so much resentment for how I was showing up for other people. And I
Yeah.
remember specifically, I was going to a happy hour. Someone wanted to chat with me about like some stuff that was going on in their life, and I didn't want to be there. And I was texting with another friend in the car, and I was like, I don't even want to go, like, but I'm going to go. And my friend was like, would your friend even want you to come if this is how you're thinking about it? And I'll never forget that. That conversation was like 7 years ago. I will never forget that because I want to show up in as much integrity of wanting to be there, but I had to check in with myself first to even see if that was the case.
That is not taught to a lot of us, the check-in, because what we have modeled for us is no, people are going to just, and we talk a lot about boundaries and needs, because boundaries really are a fancy word for needs.
Mm,
And I got in a little, I don't want to call it drama, but I got in a really interesting experience on Facebook a few months ago when I was talking about how a famous person set boundaries and people are like, those are boundaries. Those are like, that's abuse. And I was like, oh, it's actually not. And I can totally see how you think that based on how we talk about boundaries in today's society. And actually, that's not really it. Like, so that's something we go really deeply into in trips, and we'll touch on in the trips conference in January too. And the reason that relates back to this is because if you don't know your own needs, how the heck are you supposed to know if helping someone else will violate one of them?
Yeah.
And that is crucial of like, okay, I'm going to actually stop and think about myself first, which I know is so the opposite of what those of us who identify as helpers tend to do. We're like you said, I'm going to just jump in and do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I still do this occasionally. There's still a couple areas in my life I'm working on this. One of them is with my husband, because it's so funny. I grew up as the child of a social worker. And so social workers solve problems. It's literally what they do.
Yeah.
They find resources and help you solve your problems. And so we used to joke with my mom when she'd go into problem solving mode, we'd say, hey, stop social working me. And, TLC and I being in the same space and us working together, we have to be really careful about our roles, because the other day he was expressing like how he was going through something, and I jumped right into like, so what I'm hearing you say is, and he's like, can you not psychoanalyze me right now? Like, can you not coach me? And I was like, oh shit, sorry, my bad.
He's like, I've read the same books as you. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, we're not on a trips call. We're not in here. Like, there you have explicit permission to coach me. And he's like, and even there you ask for consent. So that's why I'm just finding this so hilarious that you just like burst through the boundary and we're like, so what you need to do is, and what I realized was I was actually feeling uncomfortable around what he was saying because I was judging myself.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to help him. I was trying to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And a much better way of helping both myself and him is recognizing, oh, I'm having feelings about what he is saying. What would I like to do about that? I tell you what, this will shift all of your relationships in some very unexpected ways. I know you've had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much so. We had a conversation the other night and I said, actually, when you say that, like, and it was a joke, and I was like, when you say that, it actually hurts my feelings. And there was a pause and then like a laugh and a, oh, shush, like, ha ha. And I was like, what do you mean by shush? And then I'm like, I need to take some space and just like, and then later a conversation around, actually, I didn't mean shush. I don't want you to not share when something bothers you. And I can see how you thought that that was how you felt.
Yeah.
And but I would have never done that before. Lee, I was the person that like if someone's like, what's your favorite food? I'm like, I have all the foods are my favorite food. What's your favorite food? We'll always have what you want first. I have no idea what my actual favorites are. I do whatever you like to do. Are we having fun yet? Because if we're having fun, then I'm
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I feel like whenever we put on events like this, we've talked about this before, is like I go through the portal of whatever the thing is before we do the thing. And so this event's been really interesting because it's been two portals of, oh, can you actually like change your mind? Can you implement what you've learned before and like not make the same mistake? Can you trust your gut? And then the other side of this has been, there's still a lot of places that I'm quote unquote helping that are not helpful. And they are actually harming me and harming other people. And so I'm going to say something that is probably very controversial. There's this definition of addiction that I think is super interesting. And it's by Terrence Real. And he says that addiction is the continued use of any behavior or substance or whatever, despite known harmful consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about this is that it doesn't presence the behavior itself. It presences you're doing this because there's something that's driving you to do it. So it takes the focus off of the substance or the behavior or the thing and instead goes, why are you doing that thing that hurts you? And one of the things we talk about a lot in trips is that self-sabotage is really self-protection. Anytime you're harming yourself, part of yourself, or you're harming someone else, you're most of the time we're doing it because we're protecting another part. So a lot of us have developed a helper identity to protect a part of us, or protect other people from us, a part of us. And in reality, as we've grown and as we've entered into new situations and new experiences, that helping behavior is becoming less helpful and more harmful.
Mm.
I know I just totally kicked y'all in the pants with that, some of you. So if you're like, I hate you, Lee, I am going to stop listening immediately. I get it. Because anytime I think about this for myself, I'm like, oh, right. There's still places that I am showing up in an addictive way with helping because it's trying to meet a need. And so that leads us to the day 3 of what's the number one practice you can use to prevent burnout from over helping. So basically, if you've become addicted to helping, how do you stop doing that? And really, it's incredibly simple, and it is the hardest thing you will do.
Simple does not always mean easy.
No, simple rarely means easy, I think.
Right.
I think the simplest things are the hardest things.
Mhm.
You know, I'm getting philosophical, but we have 3 core needs as humans. We've talked about them on here on the podcast. We go extensively into these. We'll go into them in the TRIPS conference and in the actual certificate program. And in Here to Help, we're going to just touch on them for you so you understand what they are and you can start seeing them. And so the first one, the kind of base level one, is your physical safety. And so this is not just your body staying alive and healthy. This is also your resources. So this is like your time, your access to knowledge, your access to money or financial abundance, those types of things, and then energy. And so all of those things really add up to your capacity. And your capacity is the number one thing that you should be aware of and know how to measure it. So the famous quote, which I don't know if anyone knows who said it now, is like, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? That cup is your capacity. And so if you have no resources, you can't give resources to someone. And so being a helper in the truest sense of the word means you're going to want to make sure that you have an overflow of resources to be able to share with other people.
Yes.
And I know for me, the number one part of those resources was probably energy. And I cannot tell you how many times I sacrificed sleep, hydration, nutrition, physical touch and connection and intimacy, like conversation, that energy piece, like the physical, spiritual, emotional, mental energy, how much I sacrificed that. And I was pouring from an empty cup for a really long time. And even now, sometimes I'll still make myself wrong. I'm like, oh gosh, why am I so tired? And I'm like, because it's only been 3 years, Lee.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years and you poured from an empty cup for like 20. So maybe you give yourself a break. Which one do you think, like, if you think about those physical safety, which one do you think is the one that you struggled with the most resource wise?
I would definitely say energy, but what it actually showed up in was joy. I got to a point where I had no more energy, so then I was literally giving away the last morsels of joy that I felt like I had.
Oh man. So that's actually really fascinating, because my question to you would be, why? Like, what did you trade the joy for? I think I know the answer, but I want to.
I think validation,
Okay.
yeah, that it was
I'm so
worth
excited. Okay. I was like, I hope this is going to go where I think it's going to go. This is like so perfect. Okay. Yeah. Validation, right? So really, it was the second need, that second core need, which is psychological safety, which is, I feel valued. I feel important. I feel like I belong. I feel included. So you're like, oh, like you just said there, oh, I don't have a favorite food. What's yours? Oh yeah, we'll have that every single time.
Mm.
That's coming from a place of, I would rather fit in and have you like me and think that I'm a nice person, or like that I'm fun to hang out with, or I'm so helpful. I would rather have that than risk. This is the word, risk you not liking me if I actually told you what I wanted. And welcome to the plight of nearly every single woman that I have ever met. This is something that I've been recently going through, and it's been really painful. And also I'm kind of digging it of, okay, I've experienced what it feels like to live life selfishly and like not put other people's needs above my own. And then I've experienced what it feels like to put other people's needs above my own. What does it feel like when I value their needs and my needs?
Mm-hmm.
And I start with mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't ask you, when you say, what would you like to eat? I don't say, well, what were you thinking? I say, you know what sounds really great is a burger. And I would be open to some other things if that doesn't sound good for you.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you what would feel supportive and good for me. Let me tell you what I would enjoy. And then I'm going to be vulnerable and open myself up to you saying like, oh my gosh, you're not a vegan. Oh my gosh, you eat like that?
Right.
Because that's what
Right.
we're afraid of.
Well, and it's really interesting because let's use that as the example.
Yeah.
You're also assuming that the other person can't handle the answer that you're going to give them, and you don't give them the power to decide if they want to handle that answer or not.
Preach. I mean, how harmful is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is one of the conversations that I have with people who identify as people pleasers a lot. I'm like, do you realize how harmful your people pleasing is? And they're like, what? I'm sorry, what? It's the Elle Woods Legally Blonde. I'm sorry, I hallucinated. What did you just say? People pleasing is harmful because what you do is you condition people into believing that they don't need to have those hard conversations in their lives, that they don't need to learn how to do things mutually beneficial because the person that they're in relationship with is always going to defer to them. I'm gonna say a thing. We can't get mad at people for acting the way we train them. You know, I mean, we can, and it's not particularly helpful, right? There's this accountability piece of like, I have to take accountability for the fact that I'm not trusting you. I'm judging you and going, you can't hold disagreement.
You can't handle the truth.
Right.
Whatever that is. Yeah.
We are full of movie quotes today. I like TV show quotes. I love it. But that right there, even, this is a perfect example of psychological safety. Some of y'all might not have seen those movies. And for me, it's like, oh, we're doing this podcast episode. And I said this, and maybe there's somebody who hates Golden Girls. Oh my gosh, are they going to stop listening to the episode? Y'all, that happens in my brain. That's the helper going, oh, well, what if that takes away from the value of this episode for them? Well, that's a them problem.
Yeah.
I can't be in my full joy. I can't give away pieces of my joy to try to prevent you from potentially not liking what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had mentioned the word resentment earlier, and I think this is key. Psychological safety, when you are helping from a place of, Brene Brown talks about this, you're helping from a place of fitting in rather than belonging. Fitting in is the opposite of belonging. When you are helping from a place of trying to fit in, that is one of the most resentful things you can do. When you are helping from a place of trying to get someone else to then help you, that's also one of the most resentful things you can do, because resentment is based in envy. And envy means I want what you have. So if I'm resenting the fact that when you ask me where I want to eat and I say, oh, wherever you want, and you don't volley it back to me and say, no, really, where do you want to go? If I'm feeling resentful, what I'm actually feeling of is envious that you are letting yourself choose.
Yeah.
And that takes us to that third core need, which is choice and agency. I think I've said it on here before, but like when I have people say, well, is agency really a core need? You go hang out with a 2-year-old for more than 5 minutes and tell me that choice and agency is not a core part of being a human.
Right.
The reason why so many kids' first word after mama and dada is no. One of the first things we learn to do is set boundaries by saying, no, that's not what feels good for me. Now, they're 2 and they're have absolutely no life experience whatsoever and really don't know what they need, but they think they do. And the process of being able to say no, so often with our kids, we just skim right over that. And for a lot of us as kids, after a while, that first or second no you said, and you got the tar taken out of you, you might have learned really quickly that no wasn't an option. So there's a lot of people out there that are helping because they don't even know what their no is. They don't even know how to tell if something is a no.
Right. And no judgment around that. Like,
No,
you've lived in that for a long time, and it
right.
feels great to be walking out of it. Mhm.
Yeah. There is zero judgment around that. Like, in fact, I have so much empathy and compassion because I knew that there were certain things that were going to be no's that I could not push. And so part of what I did as my little rebellious butt was just went around it and acted like I wasn't going to do it, did it anyway, and then lied about it. And one of the things I had to learn was, and this goes back to the psychological safety piece and the choice piece. If I'm in a situation where I don't feel safe telling people the truth, it feels easier to lie than to tell the truth. I'm at the point now in my life where if I have the impetus to lie to somebody, that actually says more about them than it does about me. Because what that tells me is I'm not a human who goes that route anymore as the default. So if my nervous system is feeling threatened enough that it's like, well, just don't tell the truth and go around it. Ooh, something's really off here.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I used to be like, oh my gosh, I felt like I needed to lie again. I can't believe it. And now I'm like, no, no, no. What? It did not feel safe for you to take the risk of telling the truth. And so now you get to look at, was that a you thing? Was that a them thing? Was it an us thing? And there isn't any judgment around that now. There's no judgment around, oh, wow, I told a white lie, or like, I felt like I should lie there. Well, what was, just let me approach that with curiosity.
Yeah.
I know you said this, that you feel like you can own your no more now. Like,
Absolutely. Am I perfect in it? Absolutely not. Am I feeling so much better about it? And have I gotten better at determining when to say yes,
mhm.
when to say not now, and when to say no?
Yeah. I remember before this, you were talking about the practice you use now. And we'll talk about this somewhere in here, these 3 days around. There's different ways in which you can figure out what your yes and your no is. And I say your yes, your no, you're not now, you're not like this. Those are really the 4 questions, or the 4 answers, excuse me. But you said that your practice is delay, right? What does that look like?
So I would naturally automatically say yes. In fact, I would get teased because if I didn't even hear a full question, my answer was always yes before I even understood what I was agreeing to. And now my response is I find a way to delay it. So
Mhm.
if it's, I love that. Thank you for thinking of me. I want to take some time and think about this. I'll text you about it tomorrow. And just a little bit of space to be able to give me some space to actually take the time to think about, do I want to agree to dinner
Yeah.
or a phone call or whatever? I need a little bit of space because my tendency was always an immediate yes. And sometimes it actually meant, no, not like this, not now.
That is one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite things. So if you're somebody who says things immediately, if you can start practicing like what you just said, thank you for thinking of me. I say, I'm going to noodle on it, get back to you, right? One of my things is that capacity piece now. So I've talked a little bit about this on here. I'm really big into human design. So I'm a generator, and I have started asking myself those yes or no questions in my head or out loud. So when somebody asks me, what do you want for dinner? That question can completely overwhelm me. And then that's when I go, well, whatever you want. So what I've started doing with the people I love is like, can you ask in a yes or no question? Like, can you say, do you want to choose what we're having for dinner? Yes. Okay. Do you want to go out? No. Do you want to stay in? Yeah. Do you want to cook? No. Do you want to order in? Yes. And then I can go, oh, that new restaurant, the taco place. And it's like, cool, right? It's there. Now you might go, oh, that's a lot of questions. How many of y'all have had fights with your partners over what you're going to eat for dinner that have lasted way longer than that? Right?
Oh, days. Yeah.
Yeah. We're still arguing about what we were going to eat on Tuesday, on Thursday. Yeah. So a lot of people go, oh, that's a lot of work. And I'm like, up front, it feels that way. It saves you so much on the back end. And this is something I'm really, even earlier, I'm just remember, like, this is just clicking right now. TLC asked me something earlier and my brain completely blanked, and I'm realizing it's because he asked me an open-ended question. And I was like, he did not get a good answer out of me, because I was like, I don't even know how to answer this. And so I'm like, if you're listening to this going, oh, wow, those practices sound amazing. And also, I don't know, like, I'm still in it too, y'all.
But
So
it's practice.
it's practice. Really, what we want to do in these 3 days with you is we want to help you create more bandwidth and capacity for yourself. And like, that cup we talked about, we want you to be able to find where it is, right? Like, even find your cup again. Maybe the cup got lost. Find the cup again, figure out how to measure how much is in the cup, check in with yourself and see, okay, what do I have capacity for? And then also, how do I refill that? So when it does feel aligned for me to help, I can say yes and not burn myself out. The other cool thing we're going to be doing, and I'll just let you know this right now in case you're like, okay, I will be ready, is on day 3, we're going to open up the TRIPS conference event that's in January 5th through 7th. And if you decide to join that, we're actually going to have a Here to Help for the Holidays Facebook group available. So what that will look like is a space that you can actually practice bringing us a scenario in and going, oh my gosh, I got asked to wrap Christmas presents and like, I really don't want to, and I'm not sure how to say it. And one of us will be in there and we can brainstorm and kind of talk it through with you. And if you're somebody who likes yes or no questions, you can say, can somebody ask me yes or no questions? And you can actually start to practice putting these things into place.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do it too. So this isn't going to be just like oh, Jenae and I are the gurus, like leading.
Oh, no, we'll be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like, I might pop in there and say, can somebody ask me a yes or no question around this? Or, one of the other things you might say is like, can you just tell me I'm not a jerk?
Yeah.
Can you just validate my desire to not want to help here? Because sometimes you need that hype up of like, no, you're not a jerk for saying no to going to a 5-hour hike, 20-degree weather. Like,
yeah.
look at Christmas lights. Like, you can be like, nope, I'm going to stay in the house and drink hot chocolate and y'all go have fun. And if you're not used to saying no, you're going to feel like a jerk. So it's helpful to have a group of people who you can go and say like, I feel like a jerk. Can somebody please tell me I'm not a jerk? Because we make ourselves wrong for that, for needing that support. We think, oh, I can't ask for that help. Yeah, you can. We want you to. Anything else you want to add, Jenae?
I'm looking forward to taking up some space myself and being a part of the group through the holidays. I know that one of the biggest gifts that I can give myself is the ability to be able to say no and feel better about it. And so just an invitation that if you would like to give yourself that gift through the holidays too, to definitely check it out.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. Some of you don't need to join the group because you need support in saying no. Some of you need to join the group because you need support in saying yes. I see you too, because some of y'all say no to the things that you need and the support that you need all the time. And the practice of saying yes to like somebody saying, hey, can I do this favor for you? That's no strings attached. Can I do this kind of thing for you just out of the kindness of my heart? Like, you might need help on that end saying yes to those things. So we'll also be there for that and you'll get to practice there. So
that sounds like a great gift to be able to receive.
Right. We want to give that gift to you. It is, gosh, I'm on a movie theme today. I just thought of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which we watch every Thanksgiving evening. That's how we kick off Christmas season. And I just thought of Randy Quaid and the Jelly of the Month Club, where he's like, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah, it really is. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You giving this to yourself, you helping yourself this way is going to make a huge difference. And if it doesn't, hit us up afterwards and be like, I didn't learn a thing. We want to know that. I don't think that's going to happen. And also, it's safe for you to say that to us. So let us know. Okay. The link to join us is in the show notes. Invite your friends. invite your family if you want them in there with you. If you don't, say no to that. And we hope to see you in there. There's already over 100 people in there, and we still have like 3 weeks before this starts. So it's gonna be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the best way for us to end this is like, whatever we can do to support you. That's exactly what we're wanting to do. And we are truly, truly here to help.
Yeah. That chef's kiss. We're done. All right. We'll see you all next week. Hope to see you inside here to help, and love you all. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Invitation to head to our show notes to check out the offers and connections we mentioned. Or you can just head straight over to institutefortrauma.com and hop in our email list so that you never miss any of the cool things that we're doing over at the Institute. Invitation to be well and to take care of yourself this week, and we'll see you next time.